All I wanted was one quiet night by my lake. Karen had other plans, until I bought her street and shut her down completely. After 2 grueling months of nonstop work, endless meetings that bled well into the night, and the kind of bone-deep stress that even the strongest chamomile tea and meditation couldn't begin to fix, I finally made the executive decision to unplug from the digital world. Literally, I switched my phone into airplane mode, methodically packed a small but well-equipped camping kit, and drove the winding road out to my lakeside property. A pristine patch of heaven I'd carefully selected and purchased exactly 1 year ago with the sole intention of finding some semblance of peace and tranquility in a world that seems perpetually incapable of quieting down for even a moment. The plan was beautifully simple, almost poetic in its minimalism. Pitch a modest tent under the canopy of stars. Gaze upward at the cosmic light show that city dwellers never get to appreciate. Roast a hot dog or two over a small, crackling fire. Maybe even compose a nature-inspired haiku if the muse struck or boredom set in during the quieter moments of the evening. It was supposed to be simple, uncomplicated, and refreshingly straightforward. It was supposed to be quiet, peaceful, and rejuvenating to my overworked soul. But in my exhaustion-induced haze, I had somehow forgotten one crucial thing, one unfortunate, HOA-infested, rule-obsessed detail that lurked just beyond the boundary of my private sanctuary. Karen. No sooner had I meticulously zipped up my weatherproof tent and contentedly cracked open an ice-cold soda than I heard the sharp, jarring crunch of gravel beneath tires. A distinctive sound that somehow always manages to feel infinitely more aggressive and intrusive when it's produced by Karen's immaculately maintained beige SUV. She screeched to a dramatic halt, as if she were a federal agent about to bust an international drug cartel. Window dramatically rolled down. Designer sunglasses perched strategically on her nose despite the fading daylight. Clipboard clutched authoritatively in her manicured hand. She hollered across the otherwise serene lakeside, as if she were addressing workers on a chaotic construction site rather than a single person seeking solitude. You absolutely cannot camp here. This is not a designated recreation zone according to Section 7, Paragraph 3 of the Community Guidelines. Now, I should clarify for complete transparency, this is unequivocally my land. I own every square inch of the lake's perimeter. The majestic trees that frame the water's edge. Even the charming yet admittedly scrappy little wooden dock that creaks rhythmically when it rains or when gentle waves lap against its supports. But Karen, in all her delusional HOA-empowered glory, somehow still firmly believed that the arbitrary bylaws of her suburban dominion magically extended their reach onto my lakeside haven, despite the property being several lots and legal boundaries removed from the official HOA jurisdiction. I summoned every ounce of patience within me and calmly replied with measured words, "Actually, I absolutely can camp here. This is private property. My property, purchased and paid for in full." Karen responded with a tight-lipped, insincere smile, the exact kind you might observe right before a great white shark launches into a feeding frenzy, and muttered something ominously about calling the local authorities to handle this obvious violation, which, true to her word, she immediately did without a moment's hesitation. Within precisely 3 minutes of our uncomfortable exchange, I was peacefully in the middle of assembling the perfect s'more, graham cracker positioned, chocolate square melting slightly, marshmallow toasted to golden perfection, when the distinctive blue and red lights pulled up alongside the lake's edge. 2 officers, looking visibly confused by the nature of the call, cautiously stepped out of their patrol vehicle and approached me with expressions reflecting more professional curiosity than genuine concern about any wrongdoing. Karen, however, sprang dramatically into action before they could even introduce themselves or state the purpose of their visit. This individual is illegally squatting on community land that's currently under neighborhood association review. He's lighting dangerous, unregulated fires in a drought-prone area. There could be bears or other wildlife attracted to his food. Children could wander by. This is a clear safety hazard. Without missing a beat, I calmly reached into my camping pack and pulled out my meticulously organized property deed, complete with detailed legal plot diagrams, multiple notarized stamps from the county clerk's office, and an amusing sticky note from my real estate attorney that explicitly read, asterisk yes, this is all perfectly legal. Enjoy your beautiful lake responsibly, asterisk. The two officers took one brief look at my documentation, exchanged knowing glances that spoke volumes about similar calls they'd likely handled before, and radioed back to dispatch with barely concealed amusement in their voices. One of them even casually asked if I happened to have an extra marshmallow to spare, as the aroma from my campfire was quite enticing after their long shift. Karen, of course, absolutely fumed at this unexpected turn of events. Her voice steadily rose to an impressive fever pitch that likely disturbed every woodland creature within a half-mile radius. And eventually, she dramatically screamed what I've come to recognize as the magic words in the HOA Confrontation Handbook. You will seriously regret this. I promise you that. Ah yes, the universally recognized HOA Karen battle cry, delivered with perfect pitch and practiced intensity. What Karen had absolutely no way of knowing was that I happened to be a managing partner and co-owner in a highly successful real estate development firm specializing in acquiring undervalued properties. She had no inkling whatsoever that the private street she proudly lived on, yes, the actual physical asphalt connecting her driveway to the main road, had recently come up for sale in a county auction block after the original neighborhood developer had negligently failed to renew ownership of that specific parcel with the county land management office. With practiced efficiency, I quickly checked the current deed status on my phone's county property app. I confirmed the auction listing was still active. I had more than enough liquid capital readily available in my business account. Exactly 3 minutes and several taps on my phone later, I had successfully become the proud legal owner of Karen's entire residential street. By first light the following morning, a small but unmistakably official sign, printed on heavy-duty weather-resistant material, had been professionally installed at the entrance to the neighborhood. Private street. Access strictly restricted to authorized residents. All unauthorized vehicles will be immediately towed at owner's expense. Karen emerged from her front door the moment the installation crew departed, screaming at a pitch that could shatter crystal, looking utterly horrified as if she'd witnessed an apparition wearing neon Crocs and a ridiculous camping hat performing a dance routine on her manicured lawn. You absolutely cannot do this. This is my neighborhood. We have rights. I'll call the Homeowners Association president immediately. With considerable satisfaction, I calmly handed her a professionally printed, notarized copy of the new property deed showing my company's ownership, along with a highlighted section of the county code regarding private road access, then silently turned and walked back to my lakeside tent to finish enjoying my interrupted s'more from the previous evening. In the weeks that followed, Karen frantically tried absolutely everything within her limited power, circulating outraged HOA petitions that garnered minimal support, making empty lawyer threats that never materialized into actual legal action, posting lengthy Facebook rants composed entirely in all capital letters with excessive exclamation points. But none of her desperate efforts changed the irrefutable legal fact that I now legitimately owned the only access road leading to her driveway and several other homes in the vicinity. Eventually, after much negotiation and several community meetings, we reluctantly struck a mutually beneficial deal. She would permanently leave me and my peaceful lake activities completely alone without interference. And in exchange, I would graciously grant her and her neighbors the necessary driveway easement access they required for daily coming and going. We now exist in what I've come to describe as a carefully maintained state of tense but functional peace between neighboring property owners. I still regularly pitch my comfortable tent at my beloved lake whenever I need to escape the pressures of city life. I've even added a tasteful but unmistakable wooden sign near my campsite that humorously reads, "This tranquil campsite brought to you by proper legal ownership documentation, county-approved recreational use, and premium marshmallows for optimal s'more creation." And occasionally, just to subtly remind her of our power dynamic and annoy her ever so slightly when I know she's home, I playfully blast an old classic campfire song from my portable speaker that cleverly goes, "This land is my land. This is definitely not Karen's land, from the private lakefront to the deep protected tree line. This land was made for peace and quiet, not for Karens."